Great, people are starting to join. We've got about 31 participants so far, 35. And whenever we are ready to start, we can get started.
Okay, so you're making a countdown, right?
You are good to go, Luis, whenever you're ready.
Shall we start now?
Let's do it.
We are ready.
Buenos días a todos. Hello, everyone. Hola a todos. Hello, everyone. And welcome to the Inclusion International International Rescue Committee, and Education Cannot Wait side-event on partnerships on inclusive humanitarian action. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Luis Gabriel Villarreal, and I am from Bogota, Colombia, and I'm a self-advocate and the Vice President of Inclusion International. Today, we have gathered different groups working on humanitarian support for people with intellectual disabilities, including self-advocates, including self-advocates with intellectual disabilities, families, organizations of people with intellectual of people or persons with disabilities, and humanitarian organizations. Which we will talk in this session. We will talk about the challenges people with intellectual disabilities and our families face during humanitarian crisis. We want to understand the struggles humanitarian actors have in reaching and including us. We will discuss how partnerships can help overcome these barriers. We will hear about experiences in Kenya, Ukraine, Niger, Colombia, Ethiopia, and Burkina Faso. But most importantly, we will share clear recommendations for humanitarian organizations on being more inclusive of people with intellectual disabilities. By come together, we can work towards helping people with intellectual disabilities and our families receive the support and services we need during these emergencies. First, let's share some housekeeping details. Next slide, please. Thank you. Spanish. First of all, the Spanish, French, and English simultaneous translation is available throughout this meeting for participants in Zoom. To get the interpretation in your language, so please click the globe button on the back navigation panel at the bottom of your screen, and then select the language you want to hear. Next slide, please. Now, if you're on your mobile or your cell phone, you should click the three dots which say more underneath. You can also click a button to mute original menu original audio, which this means you will only hear the interpretation. Remember to click done to save your change. Next slide, please. Now and now the automatic closed captioning from Zoom is also available in English. You can click the closed captioning button in the Zoom bar. Next slide, please. Sign language is all will be provided in this meeting. The sign language interpreter will be pinned in the call. This means that they will always be visible to the participants in the call. If you cannot see an interpreter, please let us know and through the chat box, and we will work to sort it out. Next slide, please. Please feel free to say hello and introduce yourself via the Zoom chat and Facebook chat. If you have a question for our panelists, please post them in their Zoom Q&A box found in the you can find in the navigation panel at the bottom of your screen or in Facebook chat. This session will be recorded. Feel free to contact us if you would like the recording at the email address provided in the chat. And please tweet about this event using the hashtag COSP17. Next slide, please. We want to make sure this meeting is accessible to everyone involved, As a reminder to our speakers and anyone commenting in the chat, please make sure to speak slowly and clearly and to use simple language. Please do not use jargon or acronyms without explaining what they mean. Now, thank you so much. And now we're going to introduce our speakers. Now we're going to introduce our speakers. Our first speakers in this event will be Janie Aikini and Jeffrey Gibbonish. Jane and Jeffrey are self-advocates who work with KIEH, an organization of people with intellectual disabilities in Kenya. Jane and Jeffrey will give opening remarks. So Jane and Jeffrey, the floor is yours. Welcome.
My name is Jane Akini from KAI. I am a self-advocate from KAI and Inclusion Africa. I want to talk about Article 11. Article 11 is about disaster and is affecting persons with intellectual disability. Ina affect watu wako na ulemavu wa akili na wazazi wao, na serikali ingejua hii mambo, ingeweza kusaidia kuweza kujua mambo yani disaster.
And now we're gonna introduce a very short introduction to Jeffrey. Jeffrey, the floor is yours. Now Jeffrey is gonna give us a short introduction about the work he's doing. Jeffrey, you're welcome, and the floor is yours.
My name is Geoffrey. I'm a self-advocate from Kenya. Nam, my name is Geoffrey from Kenya. I'm a self-advocate. My organization is Sky. Yeah, that's it. My point is, according to my life, I live in a situation that mahali ambapo ninaishi au mahali ambapo tunaishi sisi, wakati ambapo mvua inanyesha, tunapata kunyeshewa, wakati mwingine tunapata baridi. Hiyo ndio changamoto ambazo tunapitia sisi kama walemavu, sana sana huku nchini Kenya. Hiyo tu ndio ningependa kuongea kuhusu, ndio changamoto ambayo tunapitia sisi kama walemavu. Thank you.
Geoffrey says that he's a self-advocate from Kenya, and he also says that disaster situations are very difficult for people with intellectual disabilities, given the recent rains in Kenya that have wreaked havoc, and that he was adversely affected by this, and so that's all he wants to say. Thank you.
May I add another point, please?
Feel free to, Jeffrey.
A few days ago, we buried a young boy, 18 years old, because of depression. I didn't believe before, but now I believe depression is real. So I would have to encourage self-advocates. If you have that issue, you can look for help. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jeffrey, for your intervention, and also for, and I want to thank you so much, Jane and Jeffrey for your explanation and for introducing. Now, our second speaker is Raisa, Olena, and Anya from Ukraine. From Ukraine. Olena, Raisa, and Anya work with the BGO coalition. work with the PGO coalition, a network of 85 Ukrainian local organizations for people with intellectual disabilities, representing around 14,000 families from all the regions of Ukraine. Raisa, Olena, and Anya will share their work and explain how organizations of people with disabilities fill the gaps left by humanitarian organizations left by fill the gap. Sorry, guys, fill the gap, fill the gap, fill the gap, fill the gaps left by humanitarian organizations in supporting people with intellectual disabilities and their families in Ukraine. Raisa and Olen will speak in English and will give consecutive translation support to Anya. Anya, Olena, and okay, Raisa, Olena, and Anya, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, dear colleagues.
Мене звати Аня Соловей, я сама адвокатка.
My name is Anna Solovey. I'm a self-advocate.
Я живу в Києві, мені 40 років. Я є лідеркою самоадвокатів у Київській організації «Джерела».
I live in Kiev. I'm 39 years old. I'm the leader of advocate in Kiev organization called Jarela.
Наша маленька організація «Джерела» входить до Української національної мережі для людей з інтелектуальними порушеннями.
Our small organization Jarela is a part of the national network people with intellectual disabilities.
Національна мережа називається «Коаліція».
The national network is called NGO Coalition for Persons with Intellectual Disabilities. Next slide, please.
Зараз в Україні війна, яка змінила життя кожного українця.
War in Ukraine. Now there is a war in Ukraine that has changed the life of each Ukrainian.
У нас в Києві і скрізь по Україні по декілька разів на день звучать повітряні тривоги.
In Kiev and everywhere in Ukraine, air alarms sound several times a day.
У нас кожного дня відключають світло на багато годин. Ми не можемо готувати, їсти, прати. Пропадає телефонний зв'язок, відключається інтернет.
Every day the lights go out for many hours. We can't cook, switch washing machines or kettles. The telephone connection is lost. The internet connection is stopped or disconnected.
Коли оголошують тривогу, зупиняється громадський транспорт, автобуси, тролейбуси, метро не їздять через річку Дніпро.
When air alarms is announced, public transport stops. Buses, trolleybuses, the metro do not cross the Dnipro River. Next slide, please.
Більшість моїх товаришів з інвалідністю не звертають увагу на повітряні тривоги, бо поруч немає бомбосховищ.
Most of my friends with intellectual disability don't pay attention to air alarms. There are no bomb shelters nearby.
Ми щодня ризикуємо життям під час повітряних тривог.
We risk our lives every day during air attacks.
Також мої товариші з аутизмом бояться скупчення людей у бомбосховищах.
Also, my friends with autism are afraid of crowds of people in bomb shelters.
Їм потрібна допомога психолога та персонального помічника саме в той час, коли звучить сирена.
They need the help of psychologist and a personal assistant when the siren sounds. The next slide, please.
А допомога психолога є не для всіх.
But the help of psychologist is limited.
А персональних помічників для людей з інтелектуальними порушеннями в Україні взагалі немає.
And we do not have at all personal assistance for people with intellectual disabilities in Ukraine.
Наша організація «Джерела» проводить виїзний 10-денний курс психологічної реабілітації для дорослих з інтелектуальними порушеннями.
General Association can conduct a 10-day course of psychological rehabilitation for adults with intellectual disabilities.
Після такого курсу ми на декілька місяців почуваємо себе спокійно.
After such a course, we feel calm for several months.
Особисто мені такий курс потрібен 3-4 рази на рік.
Personally, I need such a course 3-4 times a year.
Місцева влада, але щоразу важко знайти гроші для проведення курсу психологічної реабілітації.
But it's always difficult to find money for conducting a course for psychological rehabilitation.
Місцева влада зменшила фінансову допомогу нашій організації через війну.
The local government reduced financial assistance to our organization because of the war.
Тому моя організація «Джерела» і всі інші українські організації для людей з інтелектуальними порушеннями не завжди можуть нам допомагати.
That's why my organization Jarela and other Ukrainian organizations for people with intellectual disabilities cannot always help us.
Я закликаю вас допомогти тим організаціям, які з нами щодня, які допомагають кожній людині з інтелектуальними порушеннями через війну.
I encourage you to help those organizations that are with us every day. These organizations help every person with intellectual disabilities to survive the war. Thank you very much, dear colleagues. We appreciate that we can say about the situation with people with intellectual disabilities now in Ukraine during the war.
My name is Raisa Kravchenko. I am an advocacy expert of the coalition, and I'm a mother of the 40-year-old son with intellectual disabilities. And I want to say about war effects on persons with intellectual disabilities. But first of all, we are grateful to Inclusion International for this meeting, which is focused on the needs of persons with intellectual disabilities who survive war or any other emergency situation. As intellectual disability makes people even more fragile than any other affected by such situations. First of all, people with intellectual disabilities are strongly frightened by the war events themselves. Besides, they are disoriented by the lack of future perspective, because my son, for example, has to be oriented what is going to be next, what is happening with him. And when he is disoriented, he has anxiety and even agitation. And additional stress is caused by ruining of the daily routine, which is not so important for the other people. So if not affected by the bomb, the person with intellectual disability is affected by the abrupt changes in his or her life. No wonder that typically people with intellectual disability demonstrate increased anxiety, and they more often have the episodes of challenging behavior. At least it happens with ours here in Ukraine. Next slide, please. The war also exercises a strong effect on the families. The community-based services are often suspended or stopped, so the family caregivers have double care load, because they have to provide meals, to provide care, but at the same time to be a psychotherapist for his or her son or daughter, and no matter what the mother feels herself, she has to ignore her own feelings. Automatically, the risk of institutionalization grows. And our Ukrainian reality shows that the flow to the institution is growing during the wartime, and the authorities, national authorities, have simplified the procedure of placement of people with intellectual disabilities into the institution. So to prolong the opportunity, the time of care for the mother has to get more help from the government and from the welfare system. They need everyday support, they need personal assistance, and they need respite, which is not at the moment available here in our country. Next slide, please. And urgent measures for people with intellectual disabilities who live close to the war action, meaning evacuation, accommodation, and services in the place of evacuation have to be available, which is not the case in my country. NGOs or DPOs providing community-based services to persons with intellectual disability are more often provided services than the statutory providers. Still, these NGOs or DPOs have no resources because all the resources are focused on the war needs. So we ask international community to help our small providers, non-governmental providers of the community-based services. In the situation of increased institutionalization, we badly need your support for supported living, for personal assistance, and for the information provision in easy to read format or in plain language. Many lives depend on this information because people with decreased intellectual abilities have to get accessible information about the risks and the dangers. Thank you for this event and thank you for attention to Ukraine in the war time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Raisa, Olena, and Anya for sharing your testimony and your stories with all of us. Thank you so much, and we will help you there for help, and we will help you for this. And thank you for what we're doing. We will help you with this difficult situation that finally comes to an end. Now, now we will hear from Aline Passerli, who is an inclusion and technical advisor for IRC. Aline will talk to us about what humanitarian organizations know and don't know about working or collaborating with people with intellectual disabilities, and from her experience working on recent projects with Inclusion International in Ethiopia and Burkina Faso. Aline, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Louis. Hi, everyone. My name is Aline Bazerli. I am from International Rescue Committee, and I'm going to talk about a project called Inclusive and Accountable that we are implementing in partnership with Inclusion International. Next slide, please. So I'm going to talk about one objective of the project where we are doing it in collaboration and in partnership with Inclusion International. The objective is to learn about the experiences of adolescent girls with intellectual disabilities, to learn about their experiences with humanitarian help and support, including what went well and even what the difficulties they have also been through. And also another objective is to hear about their ideas about how humanitarian workers, what we could do better to include girls with intellectual disabilities in programs and also in services. when collecting all this information after the consultations, so we are working to do consultations in 2 countries, in Ethiopia and in Burkina Faso. And after the consultations, the International Rescue Committee, IRC, and Inclusion International, we are going to use these materials and we are going to use what we have learned during the consultations from the adolescent girls with intellectual disabilities and their caregivers to make training materials for humanitarian staff. So this is the objective of our project. Next slide, please. I'm going to tell you a bit about before the project, what happened. So before the project, we had also experience in doing consultations, and they were like small and short consultations. We did in 2022, self-advocates from both countries, Kenya and Lebanon. We did consultations with girls and women with intellectual disabilities to understand more how we can improve our work as humanitarian actors and workers to respond to gender-based violence based on human rights. And the consultations were short, they were half day, and some of them they were remote, some of them they were in person. The consultation showed that the biggest barriers to identifying and also report and talk about the gender-based violence for girls and women with intellectual disabilities are, first, the lack of information. So girls and women do not have information, and also humanitarian actors, they do not have proper information on how to communicate and how to work with girls and women with intellectual disabilities. And also that there is a huge discrimination, that the girls do not have the right to speak. So based on these consultations, we wanted to understand more about the difficulties and the challenges that adolescent girls with intellectual disabilities face during emergencies. And we wanted to make sure that the girls, they are included in the project since the preparation for the implementation and while also creating the learning materials. So we wanted the girls with intellectual disabilities to be included and to take part in these discussions and in decision-making also. And to do that, we need to build a meaningful and an equal partnership with the girls and with their representative organizations. So next slide, please. Also, during the project, before we started with the preparations for the consultation, we did a humanitarian survey. It was a survey. We wanted to understand how humanitarian organizations, whether they are international organizations, or if they are local organizations, or if they are organizations of persons with disabilities or UN agencies, we wanted to understand how they are engaging with adolescent girls with intellectual disabilities. And also, we wanted to understand the difficulties the organizations are passing through and how we need to support them more in order to meaningfully engage with adolescent girls with intellectual disabilities. We had many results, but I'm going to highlight the main 3 results here. The main results we got is that less than 30% of the organizations consult and meaningfully involve and engage with adolescent girls with intellectual disabilities, which is a very low number. And when knowing about the barriers and the difficulties, the main barriers is to engage them are the lack of guidance tools and the lack also of training materials. And regarding how we need to help them better in order to better engage and participate with adolescent girls with intellectual disabilities, it's the case studies. So the case studies with the practical tips. So these are the resources that could be of support, explaining barriers and difficulties the girls face to access the humanitarian services, and information on accessible communication. So these were the support needed. Next, please. Now I'm going to talk about how did we start planning for the consultation. So the consultation did not start yet. We are hoping to do them in July. So they will be in July in both Burkina Faso and FUNAID. But we did lots of work when planning with the consultations. So we have developed with Inclusion International and with the self-advocates also, facilitation guidelines, consultation packets, and staff training. And also we made sure to follow the listen, include, respect guidelines that Inclusion International are going to talk more about it now. We made sure that our the resources, they are designed following the universal design approach and that they are contextualized. So the first point I want to focus at is the equal partnership with Inclusion International. So IRC as international organization, we cannot do anything without representative organizations. So we made sure that, because at the end, the girls with disabilities and their caregivers and their families and the representative organization, they are the experts in their experiences and needs and how they need to be actively participating. And in order to make sure that our resources that we are going to use when doing the consultations, they are relevant, they are clear, they are also culturally good and truly meet the requirements, we made sure that we are in equal partnership with Inclusion International and their network. So we have also partnered with Inclusion International Network, Ethiopian National Association on Intellectual Disability, which is FUNAID in Ethiopia, and with APE in Burkina Faso. So they were really involved in everything, and they were participating in creating these resources. And at the same time also, we had an inclusion advisory group. We were meeting every 2 to 3 months. So, and why did we want to meet with the inclusion? So the group's ideas, we wanted their help for the project team to make better decisions, for the ideas to give us ideas in order to help us develop better training and learning materials in the future, and also to share the trainings. And inside the inclusion advisory group, we had experts in inclusion, we had experts with adolescent girls, and we made sure also to have self-advocates with us in the inclusion advisory group. So as you can see, when planning for the consultation, we made sure to create this equal collaboration and equal partnership with the self-advocates, with their families, and with our country teams also. Next, please. Here, I'm not going to take lots of time, but basically I put some examples of how we made sure that the resources are following the universal design. They were easy to read language and accessible language. There were illustrations. I'm going to show you in a slide, in the next slide, an example of illustrations that they are culturally relevant and easy to understand. There were audio messages and at the same time also visual messages. We made sure to prepare the consultation with the storytelling. So we had illustration with the story, and we had also role play. And at the same time, we made sure that the girls, the adolescent girls participating in the consultations, they have a support person if they need that. And definitely, I want to mention that these consultations, they are co-facilitated by one of IRC country staff and by a self-advocate. So even this self-advocates, they are co-facilitating these consultations. And we made sure also to contextualize these resources to make sure that they are culturally understandable and relevant in the stories and illustrations. We made sure that we need to translate them to local languages. And also we had lots of flexibility depending on the context, how the outreach will happen, the duration of the consultation, if we need to make them over several days. We made sure to understand this in general. And also, as I said, the country teams and FUNAID and APE staff were also revising with us these materials and collaborating. In the next slide, I put one example of the illustration and the stories. So this is one example for the illustrations. And this is an example of a girl called Mara when she got the invitation to participate in humanitarian, when she got the invitation to participate in activities. So following the stories and also the illustration, we will have some questions to the adolescent girls also to participate. But we made sure to have a story. We have made sure that there are meaningful illustrations for them to be able to grasp the idea and to ease also the communication with them. In the next slides, I'm going to quickly talk about what are the next steps. So as I said, we are planning to have the consultation with adolescent girls with intellectual disabilities, and we will have also consultation with their caregivers in July. And then we are going to gather the data from the surveys and from the consultations and also all the information. We are going to equally partner with and collaborate with Inclusion International to develop the training materials. But we are going, after the training materials, we are going to go back to the adolescent girls who participated in the consultations to make a final consultation with them to show them the learning materials and the training materials we have developed, and also for them to approve what they said in the consultation they are present in these learning materials. So even after developing these training materials, we are going to make a final consultation with them to approve and also to make the needed changes based on their feedback. Next slide, please. And here I would like to leave our contact, international rescue contact. That is myself, Aline Bazirli, and also I have my colleague with me, Johanna Arp, who is leading on this work. And also there are the emails from my colleagues in Inclusion International, in case you would like to know more about the learning brief that was developed after the consultations in Kenya and Lebanon, and also if you want to know more about the project details and the results in the future. Thank you so much for listening.
And thank you so much, Eileen, for your participation and your valuable contribution and your support for this meeting and sharing so valuable information with all of us. Now our next speaker is Minhet Ngusi, who is a family member and president of FEN8 in Ethiopia. FEN8 is an organization of people with intellectual disabilities. Minhet will speak about why it is important that humanitarian organizations hear about the needs and perspectives from people with intellectual disabilities and families directly. Mihret, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, and many thanks to Inclusion International for organizing such important event for today. And I will talk about our experience and also the essential working with organization of people with intellectual disability on the humanitarian organization. And we can see several key reasons. And the first one is inclusivity and representation. Inside inclusivity and representation, we will see that voice of the affected and also human rights. When we say voice of the affected, collaborating with organization of people with intellectual disabilities ensure that their voices are heard and also their needs are addressed directly by those who best understand them. And also it promotes the human rights of individuals with intellectual disability, ensuring they are treated with dignity and also respect. And also there another essential, we can say that specializing the knowledge and expertise. When we say that it might be related with tailored support, organization of people with intellectual disability possess specialized knowledge about the specific challenges and needs of their community. And this expertise is crucial for designing effective and appropriate interventions. It also have a capacity building opportunities. This organization can provide valuable training and resources to humanitarian workers to better understand and assist people with intellectual disability, like we are planning to do with the IRC IRC. Ellen was trying to explain that we are planning to provide this kind of training because most of the humanitarian organization might not work on my work might be working on disabilities, but they don't have knowledge about people with intellectual disability. So it will have opportunity to get the capacity building trainings from these OPDs. And also we might have also an essential point, accessibility and adaptation. And they can help identify physical communication and attitudinal barriers that may prevent people with intellectual disability from accessing humanitarian aid. So it might know or it will give barrier identification opportunities. And also we can say that empowerment and participation. When we say empowerment, involving organization of people with intellectual disabilities, empowers the individuals within those organizations, fostering a sense of agency and also inclusion. And also it will give us community participation. It encourages active participation of people with intellectual disability in the planning, implementation, and evaluation of humanitarian programs, what we have been doing in Ethiopia when we work with Inclusion International and IRC on the humanitarian work we are planning to do. And also it will have improved outcomes like effectiveness and also sustainability. Programs that are inclusive of people with intellectual disability tend to be more effective as they consider the needs of broader segments of the population. And it has also sustainability opportunities. Inclusive programs are more likely to be sustainable, and as they foster community ownership and ensure that all community members benefit from these interventions. And it has also the legal and ethical obligation. When we say international framework, such as the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability, it is directly related with Article 11, mandate the inclusion of people with intellectual disabilities in all aspects of the society, including humanitarian actions. And the humanitarian organization have an ethical responsibility to serve all individuals affected by crisis, and including those with intellectual disability. It will also have an opportunity on holistic approach, like when we see intersectionality, it recognizes that people with intellectual disability may face multiple layers of discrimination and challenges like in gender, ethnicity, socio-economic status, and so on. And also holistic approach ensure more comprehensive support and also inclusive development. It supports the broader goal of inclusive development and where no one is left behind and all individuals can contribute to and benefit from societal programs. By collaborating with the organization of people with intellectual disabilities, humanitarian organization can enhance the relevance, reach, and impact of their work, and ensuring that their efforts contribute to a more inclusive and equitable world. And when we see that the local organization, particularly those working with intellectual disability, there might be variety of support to be effective in their work. And what, as the humanitarian organization, what we can do to support group of operators on working on intellectual disability. The first one, it might be related with capacity building, training and education, providing training areas such as project management, advocacy, disability rights, inclusive practice, and so on. And also it might be related with technical assistance, offering technical assistance in specialized areas such as accessibility, communication strategies. And also we might give a support as a humanitarian organization for the organization of people with intellectual disability. A financial support might be also one of the support. Funding and grants, it could be adequate funding is essential for local organization to implement their programs and services. This includes both operational funding and project specific. For example, for FENID, Fikr Ethiopia National Association on Intellectual Disability, we have been trying to see and also to support our members in the affected area, but because of the financial limitation, we couldn't provide these services. Now we have got the support from IRC and also Inclusion International. It is a big opportunity for us. So the humanitarian organization will have a big impact on addressing the need of people with intellectual disability if we can work together with the OPDs on people with intellectual disabilities. And also partnership and networking, also another support we can provide for the OPDs, fostering partnership between local organizations, large NGOs, government agencies, and so on, and also creating opportunities for local organizations. And also policy support, also another support we can provide as a humanitarian organization. It could be related with legislative advocacy, assisting local organization advocating for policies, and also support the right and inclusion of people with intellectual disabilities. And also we can support them on policy development. And also we can also support on research and data collection, sustainability planning, long-term planning, assisting local organizations developing long-term plans for sustainability. And finally, what we are working in Ethiopia and lesson learned working with humanitarian organizations like the International Rescue Committee in the project. Of course, it is on the initial point, but we have been working and also taking part in the supporting an online focus group of Inclusion International members who have experience working on humanitarian actors. And also we are planning to hold the focus group consultation, as Elian trying to explain, for adolescent girls with intellectual disability, age 10 to 90, and families in camps of internally displaced people. And we are also planning to help review and give feedback on trainings for humanitarian actors, and also hold focus group for adolescent girls with intellectual disability to look at the final training of humanitarian actors and validate it. And we are planning to provide and organizing trainings for the IRC country team in Ethiopia, and also the staffs around the internally displaced place people. The learning the lesson learned we have got from this work is the importance of early inclusion, proactive engagement, including people with intellectual disabilities from the outset of planning process leads more tailored and effective interventions. And also need assessment, conducting comprehensive need assessment that specifically considers the needs of people with intellectual disability, to also give opportunity to build a strong partnership. Like we never had a connection and also collaboration with IRC. Now we start working together. So we are hoping that to have a better engagement. And in this collaborative effort, this partnership between humanitarian organization and also our local organization and also other stakeholders will enhance the reach and impact of the program. So and also we'll have a mutual learning, both the humanitarian organization and the IRC and also FENED will have mutual learning, and it will be the benefit from shared knowledge and also expertise, leading to more comprehensive. So it will be, of course, in short time. I tried to cover all the pointers I have got. Maybe in the future we'll have an event with the result we have been doing. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mirret, for everything you're doing and Ethiopia, and for sharing us all your work we're doing out there. Now our next speaker is Monica Cortez, who is a family member and the executive director of ASDAUN Colombia. Monica will speak about a recent project in Colombia and Niger with education cannot wait, which is as an example of partnerships between humanitarian organizations and organizations of people or persons with intellectual disabilities for inclusive humanitarian work. Buenos días, Mónica. Welcome, and the floor is yours.
Gracias, Luis Gabriel.
Thank you, Luis Gabriel. And thank you very much to everyone present. I will now, as Gabriel mentioned, I will share with you an experience on something we're working on in Colombia and Nigeria with the International Alliance of Disability, along with Inclusion International. From Asam, Colombia, we have had, we have been working as a member organization to coordinate this initiative. This initiative is called Accelerate Quality, Inclusive, and Equal Education in Emergency Situations. So, as mentioned previously, this has to do with organizations that work for the rights of people with disability, as well as with anything regarding agencies who have knowledge and humanitarian action. I think somebody has their microphone on. Okay, thank you for turning on your microphone. Next slide, please. So, as I said, this is a binational project. Two countries are involved, and we're working in Colombia as well as in Nigeria. In Colombia, we have ASDAN Colombia, whereas in Nigeria, we have the Federation of Organizations of People with Disability, which are also part of the International Disability Alliance. Moving on. So, what do we want to do? We want to improve the opportunities of boys and girls with disabilities, which includes, of course, underrepresented groups, which of course encompasses the population with intellectual disabilities. So our work mainly has to do with inclusive education and emergency situations, which is what Education Cannot Wait is supporting these two countries with. In these two countries, we are having projects. A project that has to do with education, along with the Ministry of Education in Colombia, which is called multi-annual projects. And these projects seek to assist from Education Cannot Wait, the education of children who are under crisis situations. In this project, we want to work not only with agencies who take all humanitarian action, but also we want to work with civil society organizations for people with disability. So this is why, of course, this project focuses on inclusive education. And of course, Inclusion International has a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience when it comes to sharing information on what inclusive education means. And of course, we resort to this to develop this project. Next slide, please. We understand this project and all the topics that have been discussed here today regarding humanitarian emergency situations also allow us to do many things. What are the opportunities we found in this project? The first one is approaching the National Education Ministry. Before this, we didn't know that this was the second multi-annual project with Education Cannot Wait. And then in the previous project that lasted 3 years, did not take into account organizations of people with disabilities. So of course, this is a great opportunity for us to be closely involved with this large project that's taking place in our country with regards to education and emergency situations to also shed some light on the needs of boys, girls with intellectual disabilities. Working with agencies who work in humanitarian action has been very important. In Colombia, we've been working with UNICEF, with the Norwegian Council for Refugees, also with Plan International, which are organizations that had already been
en otros procesos trabajando la acción humanitaria en nuestro país.
working on humanitarian action, but we hadn't had the opportunity to approach them up until now regarding education, that is. Of course, we've been working with organizations of people with disabilities. Of course, this project allows us to have this connection and this closer approach with the organizations of people with disabilities to share with them our knowledge and our experience regarding inclusive education. But it is also important that these organizations get to know and learn about how to address emergency situations and how people with disabilities undergo these emergency situations, like those we heard from Ukraine or other places in Africa. And we, the organizations that work on matters regarding people with disability, are ignorant on these subjects. And of course, we learn about this when we talk to organizations of people with disabilities. For example, we did not know in the 50 municipalities where this initiative is going to take place, it's been very eye-opening to learn what the Ministry of Education has been doing in these municipalities. And in these 15 municipalities, we want to know who the people with disabilities are, who their families are, and who is undergoing humanitarian crisis situations. And also, we want to know what these crises are. And we have learned about armed conflicts, natural disasters, migration, gender violence, and other issues. Of course, there's a lot of information that has come to light with regards to these individuals in these municipalities. And of course, this helps keep them in mind when including them in these matters. Moving on to the next slide, please. And here, these are the results we're expecting to get. We want to be able to share knowledge on the principles of inclusive education. As I said, in emergency situations, when you talk about education, you tend to forget all the concepts and elements that we have previously established when it comes to not leaving anybody behind. Apparently, in under humanitarian crisis situations, they focus on having just a physical space and having or covering sanitation matters, but not actually ensuring accessibility process for children with disabilities when it comes to, say, having tools to understand that all children can be part of educational processes. So I believe it is important to provide humanitarian agencies with these tools so that they can then include the principles of inclusive education under any emergency situation, all the while they can convey this information to educators, to families, and to the different members of the educational community so that it's easy to think that school itself, since there's only one school in a small municipality, they believe that children with disabilities cannot go to that school because there's no special program for them. Sadly, this is very much still in our cultures. We want to make sure we don't leave anybody behind, and we want to make sure that children with disabilities are included in this humanitarian action and in the opportunity to be in school and learn together making sure we don't build barriers for, say, immigrant children, or they're always coming up with excuses to not let these children access school, maybe because they weren't brought up under the same educational system. Oftentimes, not even the family members of people with disability did not know they could bring their children to school. So it is very important for humanitarian agencies and everybody involved to have these tools and this knowledge that we will be sharing along this process. We also hope that leaders and people with disability and national organizations, we want them to understand to have the necessary tools to help people with disabilities in under emergency situations, of course. Listen, including respect for us, helps us make communication accessible, and it is a very necessary element so that agencies can use it. I believe this will obviously benefit families, educators, and schools, that we will all be working together and that we will all learn. It is a win-win situation. Cooperation agencies that are working on humanitarian aspects. Next slide, please. We'll learn. Next slide, please. We'll learn and about strategies to include people with disabilities, and on our end, organizations like ours and other organizations of people with disabilities will then know about humanitarian situations that people with disabilities are facing and why it is necessary to have all of these elements when it comes to inclusive education. Surely later on we will be sharing our results because we are currently in our first phase of this process. It is a very ambitious project and a very necessary project when it comes to facing humanitarian crisis processes to make sure nobody is left behind ever under any situation. Thank you very much.
Ah, thank you so much. Muchas gracias, Mónica, por tu valiosos aportes y por tu
Thank you very
participación,
much,
por hablarnos
Monica, for
sobre de
your
lo
input
que
and for your
hablas,
participation,
de tu
for
participación, de todo lo que hacen desde ASDAUN, siendo
letting
miembro de
us
la
know what
organización y
ASDAM has been
también
doing.
como viendo cómo haces el
And
trabajo y qué bueno que nos compartas
I'm
con
glad
todo el mundo, de lo compartas ante todos y
you
de
were able to
nuestra organización
present
para todo el mundo.
this today.
Bueno, now,
Thank you,
now
Luis
let's
Gabriel.
go back. De nada, Mónica. Now let's go back to our presentation. Now we will hear from Mark. Now we will hear from Mark Mapemba. Mark Mapemba. Mark is a self-advocate and project manager at Inclusion International. Mark will share from a self-advocate's perspective, and Mark will share from a self-advocate's perspective on how can humanitarian organizations humanitarian organizations can use global guidelines on listen include respect to work in a more inclusive way. Buenos dias, Mark. Good morning, Mark, and the floor is yours. Go ahead. Please go ahead. Mark, are you there?
I think we just lost Mark, Luis. We might give him a minute to see if he rejoins.
All right.
Yep, here he is. Hopefully he can hear us.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Mark.
Thank you. So, as we have heard today, Inclusion International and our members think it is very important for humanitarian organization to work better with organization of people with intellectual disabilities in emergencies. Inclusion International has been working with the IRC on several projects, supporting them in working with members and including people with intellectual disabilities in their activities. Through our current project with IRC, we will create training for members and humanitarian organizations to help creating training. IRC have established humanitarian
Mark, are you
organizations
there?
and we consult with members to find out about their experiences. I will share what we find out from our members. Next. We ran 4 focus group for members. We have asked them to explain about their work in humanitarian emergencies, how they work with humanitarian organizations, the benefit and challenge of working with humanitarian organizations, and their recommendations of partnerships. We have talked to 17 participants from 14 members organization across the global network about their experience. As you can see on the map, that is the list of organizations that we have talked to. Next. Next. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Mark. Can you see the screen?
Yeah, I can see, but I can't. Yeah, there. Thank you. Our members told us about humanitarian emergencies they have faced in their countries. Our members told us they have dealing with climate-related emergencies and natural disasters. The impact of pandemic situations of war and political instabilities. Supporting refugees from neighboring countries as well as internally displaced people. Now, members shared how they have had to change their work during emergencies. Many members had to work to meet urgent needs instead of working on their long-term programs. The most common work members did was referring families to disability services and support systems. Over half of members provide immediate basic aid like food, medication, and healthcare services. That same amount of peer support opportunity for people with intellectual disabilities and families affected by crisis. Other activities include providing education, fundraising, creating easy to understand information about crisis and services and helping families find shelter. Now, members named many different humanitarian organizations that they work with, local, national, regional, and international groups. The most common activity that members did to support humanitarian organizations was helping them to identify people with intellectual disabilities and their families who have been affected. Our members also help humanitarian organizations to cut with people with intellectual disabilities and their families about their needs and advise humanitarian organizations on how to make their programs inclusive. Some members have translated information from humanitarian organization into easy to understand version and deliver training to staff. Next.
Mark,
It looks,
oh, I think we've lost Mark. So just because we're running over a little bit, I'll keep going with his slides whilst he. Oh, I think you're here. You're back, Mark. Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Great. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So when it comes to benefits for organizations of people with disabilities, a pattern and engagement in organization, members said it provides access to funding streams that may not be available otherwise. Next, working with these larger humanitarian groups, inclusive visibility for local challenges.
looks like we lost Mark again.
Okay. I'll keep going with this slide whilst we're waiting for Mark to rejoin. So yes, so members said that some of the benefits included increased visibility for their for local issues and for the challenges that families and people with intellectual disabilities face in their communities. There was also benefits of shared learning, so supporting humanitarian organizations to understand about disability and inclusion, and for our members, for them to understand more about humanitarian work. Members also said that a benefit was around data collection and being able to work with humanitarian organizations to identify families of people with intellectual disabilities, and also strengthened connections with governments and wider networks and stakeholders. The challenges for organizations of people with disabilities, intellectual disabilities, in working with humanitarian organizations. We've heard many of them already today, and many of our members have shared more about them, but you can see here that some of the challenges that members shared were around the lack of understanding that humanitarian organizations had around the barriers that people with intellectual disabilities face, the lack of understanding about the local contexts, the general exclusion of people with intellectual disabilities in terms of the services and the activities that humanitarian organizations are running. Many small or volunteer-led organizations of people with disabilities feel very overwhelmed when they are asked to work with humanitarian organizations, there may be lots of bureaucratic or administrative hoops that they have to jump through. And they felt that humanitarian organizations can sometimes be inflexible in terms of the way that they work. There was also, they also identified that there was that organizations of people with intellectual disabilities were rarely involved in beginning stages of project planning, but brought in at the end. And that sometimes they felt that their expertise was not valued. Do we have Mark back yet?
Yeah, I'm back.
Great, I'll hand back to you, Mark.
We are on slide what?
We're on the recommendations, messages to humanitarian organizations slide. I'm not sure what number that is though.
Okay, fine, thank you. There. Yeah. Yeah, there. We asked members for their recommendations. The message for humanitarian organizations, our members say they need better understanding of intellectual disability. Humanitarian organizations should use resources developed by local organization of people with disabilities to increase this understanding. Organization of people with intellectual disabilities must be included from the start in the planning activities. Do not wait until the end to try to make a project disability inclusive. This will not be effective. Additional, humanitarian organizations need to review how they measure success when working with OPDs. The current approach does not look at the impact. The number may not show the full value and expertise OPDs provide. Next. Our members felt that training for humanitarian organization how to properly engage with organization of people with disability is important. The training should cover building awareness of intellectual disability and how to work inclusively, for example, using guidelines like this and include respect. Next. And finally, from organization point of view, our members say that they need training and support to strengthen their organization and capabilities so they can continue their work once emergencies are over. They want to share experience with other organizations to work in humanitarian partnership. Having their peer support is important. They also want to understand the working of large humanitarian organizations. They think both types of organization need understanding how each other works. This is very important for good combination. Next. Thank you. We will be taking all of this information and use to create training for humanitarian organization and organization of people with intellectual disability. This year, alongside our members in Burkina Faso, Ethiopia, and with IRC, We will share details of the training before the end of the year. We hope it will be helpful for everybody. Thank you very much.
Okay, and thank you, Mark, for sharing us this important detail about what you're doing with listening include respect, and also how to reach listening include respect initiatives to several humanitarian organizations that allow help for people with intellectual disabilities. And now, thank you for all to our speakers. And now we will hear from Dr. Maha, Dr. Maha Koshin Baksha, who is an inclusive education specialist from Education Cannot Wait. And Maha will share with us some closing remarks. Dr. Maha, the floor is yours, and welcome.
Hold the audio now unmuted. Escape.
Yeah, thank you so much, Louis, and thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for being here, and thank you for all the contributions that you have provided so far. It gives me great pleasure to provide the concluding remarks for this event that is being held on the occasion of the Conference of State Parties to the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. For so long, issues related to persons with disabilities generally and persons with intellectual disabilities in particular have not been gaining the attention it needs and deserves. We, thanks to the efforts of self-advocates, of persons with intellectual disabilities, their parents, their caregivers, those who work for and with persons with intellectual disabilities, issues related to this population started to come to the fore and to gain attention, whether locally, nationally, or globally. And thanks to these efforts, we are now gathering together to listen to these insightful presentations, initiatives, and concerns and barriers, and most importantly, listening to the voices of persons with intellectual disabilities themselves. So many of the countries of protracted crisis and those in emergency have signed the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. So many of these countries have went further to ratify it, such as Colombia, Ethiopia, Ukraine, and Niger, just to give some examples. But at the same time, in these contexts, we see a lot of people with intellectual disabilities are still out of education. The very limited percentage of those who receive an education, they attend special and segregated settings. Existing research is consistent about the negative attitudes of teachers towards the inclusion of children with intellectual disabilities, those on the autistic spectrum disorders, those with multiple disabilities and severe difficulties in mainstream settings. So very often, this is because they don't think they are prepared to teach this population, and also because they don't have the resources to teach them. This reality must change, and inclusion must be for everyone, and everyone should have the right to receive their education in mainstream settings. At Education Cannot Wait, we endeavor to engage with persons with disabilities in our programs and in different stages of the development of our programs. We understand that in the context where we work, issues related to the inclusion of people with intellectual disabilities may vary from one country to the other. So do the barriers, enablers, and risks that this population face. Therefore, we very much rely on conducting extensive need analysis that inform the interventions that we adopt as part of the programs that we support. Currently, we are supporting 2 initiatives that have particular focus on people with intellectual difficulties. One of them is concerned with working with OPDs, providing them with capacities development, materials, and engaging with humanitarian actors, which my colleague Monica has provided information about. This initiative has started in Colombia and will be as well piloted in Niger. Another initiative, which is still in the process of making, but it will focus on engaging with people with intellectual disabilities, mainly in sports and physical education. We know that we have come a long way in terms of including children with disabilities and those with intellectual disabilities in our program and initiatives, and that there are still a lot more that need to be done. With this remark, I would like to thank you again for inviting me and for listening, and yeah, thank you so much. Thanks.
1802.
Maha, Dr. Maha, thank you, Dr. Maha, for sharing. Thank you so much, Dr. Maha, for your remarks, and thank you for sharing your final remarks ending this interesting event. Now, unfortunately, I'm afraid that we have run out of time. Now, I'm afraid that we have run out of time. First of all, a big thank you to all our speakers who participate during this session, to this discussion, this side event. Thank you to all the sponsors and the organizer of our event for their enormous support. Especially to Inclusion International, the International Rescue Committee, International Disability Alliance, and Education Cannot Wait. Thank you so much, and I hope that this lesson which will allow us to help to make a little bit more and share about information about humanitarian work, for inclusive humanitarian work and information for many people with intellectual disabilities around the world. Muchas gracias por participar. Thank you so much y tengan un feliz día. Have a nice day. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Luis. We will be sending any unanswered questions to the panelists if they were not answered in chat. And we will also be sending along the panelists' contact information if they are open to that, along with the slides that we presented today in a follow-up email. Thank you so much to everyone.
And now we will share this record session in order for those who missed it. So we will send you the record session, this record event through your email so we can watch them. Thank you so much. Muchas gracias y feliz día.
Correct. Thank you for the reminder, Luis, and thank you everyone for attending.